I don't know how many of you folks out there listening are planning to poison your spouse this summer, but if you are one of those people, this show's for you. My name's MISCHKE. Poisoning your spouse has become a favorite American pastime of late, up there with baseball and shopping at the mall. And I think the reason is divorce attorneys have become too expensive. In a way, we have to blame lawyers again. I don't know how it starts, really. I don't. I assume you're not getting along with your spouse. You're not getting along at all. At one point, you loved this person dearly. But something's rotten in Denmark. I mean, that must be the case. So the relationship is deteriorating. And you realize with a girlfriend or boyfriend, you can just hit the trail. Hit the dusty trail. But you went and got married, and now splitting up involves lawyers. You get exhausted just thinking about going down that road. And you realize that under the kitchen sink is all sorts of cool stuff that, if placed in his or her morning coffee, will end this marriage for about $17. That's the attraction of poisoning. It's just so cheap. If we want to save lives in this country, all we need to do is make attorneys charge a flat rate of $17 total and make poisoning something that runs a person about $400 an hour. So, as I mentioned, poisoning spouses has become a new American pastime, and not just American. You can look around the globe right now and people are poisoning each other left and right, especially people who used to be in love. And the key to realizing the love is over, well, the poisoning. If you're someone who recoils at the sight of physical violence, you never have been able to get yourself to stab or shoot someone, poisoning might be for you. Or so say the ads that I've been reading of late in poisoning magazines. You folks may or may not have heard the news about the Colorado dentist who's just been found guilty of poisoning his wife. There's another woman in Florida who poisoned her husband. I've got a story here about a Massachusetts fella who poisoned his wife. Here's an Australian woman who poisoned her ex-husband. Wait, what? I just noticed there that it's the ex-husband. You mean you had already divorced and you still were not satisfied? This woman was really wanting to ensure that she never remarried the guy. Fascinating. She poisoned all sorts of people. Prosecutors in Australia say this 50-year-old woman deliberately lied about having cancer to lure her in-laws and ex-husband to a poisoned lunch. Erin Patterson lied to her in-laws about having cancer, fabricating medical appointments and test results, all in an attempt to get their sympathy and get them over for lunch so she could kill him. Patterson had no intention of ever being questioned about the lie because she believed her lunch guests would not survive, but one of the four of them did survive. Not without a lot of vomiting and diarrhea, however. This woman admitted in court she was never diagnosed with cancer. She admitted that death cap mushrooms were the meal she served that poisoned everybody, but she said it was an accident. She'd been out picking mushrooms. She didn't know they were poisonous. Of course, she made sure she didn't eat any. She's pleading not guilty. Sometimes that not guilty plea is kind of a prank. Patterson had her in-laws, Gail and Don Patterson, and a local pastor and the pastor's wife, Gail's sister, over for lunch. She served beef Wellington, after which the four guests became ill and started vomiting and had diarrhea. They said to Erin Patterson, this meal didn't sit well with us, Erin. We're vomiting, and by golly, we all have diarrhea. Aaron said to him, "Relax, you gripers. It could have been worse. I have cancer." "Oh, but Aaron, you're faking the cancer, and we really are sending Niagara Falls out our back ends and shooting a fire hose out our mouths. I mean, that's for real." All four were hospitalized. Doctors diagnosed them with death cap mushroom poisoning. A day later, Erin herself went to the hospital, reporting that she had eaten the same meal and felt unwell. It took her a whole day to figure out she should probably look like she's sick as well, or it's going to look suspicious. But here's the thing. The doctors said, "We're going to treat you same as the others. We're going to flush out your system, administer intravenous fluids." And Erin said, Oh, wait a minute. I think I'm actually going to be just fine. I'm feeling better. I'm going to go." She left the hospital. "Wait, Erin, what about your treatment?" I'm gonna try prayer." She discharged herself. 3 people died in the hospital. 1 guy survived, but only after 2 months in a coma. He's the guy who was ultimately able to report that Erin had said she had cancer and had invited the people over for a meal to say goodbye. He was able to blow the lid on this whole thing. Now, let's remember, she pleaded not guilty, though she does admit to faking the cancer diagnosis, and she does admit she failed to help identify the source of the poisoning that left her family critically ill. Instead of aiding investigators, when the 4 people were hospitalized, she gave inconsistent accounts about where she might have found the mushrooms. At first, she claimed she got them from an Asian grocer. But then she changed her mind, saying, "Actually, now that I think about it, I went out and picked them." Computer records show she researched deadly mushrooms in the weeks before the poisoning event. Oops-a-daisy. And then she served the beef Wellington on matching gray plates for her guests while using an orange plate for herself in an effort to avoid poisoning herself. "Why is your plate so different from ours, Erin?" "Oh, I don't know. The same reason your afternoon is going to be so different from mine. The same reason next week will see me quite happy, and you, well, you won't see next week at all." "I don't understand, Erin. What are you talking about?" "Just be glad you can still use words like I don't understand." My favorite part is that she had also invited her ex-husband. He was going to come over, feeling badly for her, but he bowed out the day before. Now, when he said he was going to bow out, she worked him pretty hard trying to get him to change his mind. Wonder how he's feeling today. Dodged a bullet is an understatement. This is a warning to all you people out there being invited to your ex's house for dinner. Just decline. Say you'd love to come, but you can't. You suddenly just noticed you have cancer. If you're poisoned and you know it, clap your hands. If you're poisoned and you know it, clap your hands. If you're poisoned and you know it, then your poop will really show it. If you're poisoned and you know it, clap your hands. If you're vomiting profusely, clap your hands. If you're vomiting profusely, clap your hands. If you're vomiting profusely and you're crapping rather loosely, then death cap mushrooms you have had. Because of the rash of poisonings, I spent some time researching poisoning. How far back it goes, what cultures enjoyed poisoning most, who tended to be poisoned. It wasn't typically spouses poisoning one another. No, it was mostly politicians getting rid of their rivals through poisoning. Boy, the Romans damn near perfected poisoning. But I was startled in researching the poisoning that went on in Rome to learn that you didn't put it into the cup they were drinking from. You put the poison into their enema, the enema they'd be expected to have, as people did back then. They had a lot of enemas in Rome. I did not know about this, but the enema was a common way people used to stay healthy. Now, I've never had one of these babies. Heard about them plenty. I know they exist. I've just always hoped there's a plan B for how to stay healthy. But the Romans were pretty convinced plan A was enemas. So the Roman Emperor Nero really liked poisoning his enemies by getting at their enemas. That's poisoning his enemies by getting at their enemas. His favorite thing to do was to get some cyanide in their enemas. Now, Nero's predecessor, Claudius, he was taken out with mushrooms. Our gal Aaron would have had a lot in common with Claudius. By the way, Hermann Goering took cyanide the night before he was to be hanged after being convicted at Nuremberg, and Hitler took cyanide when he killed himself, but decided, just to be sure, he'd also shoot himself in the head. A lot of people don't know Hitler also took cyanide at that same time and then shot himself. By golly, if he could, he would have had Eva Braun give him one of those poisonous enemas. I'm sure of it. In fact, it would make sense to me if that was the story of their whole love life. I mean, he was such a twisted individual, it wouldn't shock me to learn that that's all he and Eva ever did in the evenings after a long day on the job. Eva, I'm home. Get the enema equipment. Coming, Adolf. I guess I kind of see Eva and Adolf as Archie and Edith Bunker all of a sudden. Have you been mistreated by someone in a way that has left you injured? A car accident, a boating accident, some slip and fall, a defective product? Have you been the victim of recklessness, carelessness, callousness, disregard for your safety? Well, the law firm of Bradshaw and Bryant will have those bastards killed. Wait a minute. No, that's not true. Changes in the law over the last few hundred years have made it so you can't just go killing people who hurt you, but you can take aim at their pocketbook. You can take aim at their bank account. Get the kind of compensation that begins to let you know the scales of justice have been balanced. Go with Bradshaw and Bryant. They're the best in the business, and even their peers say so. Find them at MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com. If you're looking for a memory care home for a parent or a spouse or a grandparent, you should tour different facilities. Have someone take you through them and talk about the place. And while they're talking, you should look around. You should see how people are being treated there. You should kind of sense the vibe. Look at this facility. Imagine your loved one there, living there. Really think it through. Not enough people do this. They find some place real close to family members so the family members can visit. That's making it convenient for the wrong people. First order of business should always be, is this a place where I would want to be placed? Where I'd want to stay 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? If you use that measuring stick, and that alone, the Wellshire of Medina and Bloomington is going to rise so far above the competition that the decision will be obvious. So tour it, the Wellshire of Bloomington and Medina.
Dear Abby, what did they write today? Dear Abby, what did you have to say?
That's Michael Loonan from the Looney Bin Band. Thank you, Michael. Well, it's time to go to Dear Abby, that advice columnist continuing to hang in there after all these decades. The New York Post continues to run Dear Abby, as do several other newspapers. Boy, this column's been around since the 1950s, and I'm delighted you can still find it, because I enjoy the fact that there are people out there who still have a little problem or a question or concern or a conundrum, and they don't have a friend they can ask. Their clergyman isn't apparently available. A relative isn't around. They don't have a spouse. They don't have a son or daughter they can talk to. They find some stranger across the country who will give them a paragraph as a response, and they're thrilled with that, and that'll be the answer they're looking for. Dear Abby, our 23-year-old son, Ed, was clean cut. He was into working out and staying healthy. He watched his diet. He joined a gym. He was going every week. Well, of late, Ed has been dating a girl, Emily, who is the complete opposite. She's probably 100 pounds overweight. She's also dirty. When she comes to our house here, there have been days she doesn't take a shower. Twice I have found Emily's lingerie on the floor. Last week she left a pair of her panties on the bathroom floor. I told Ed, I said, you have to talk to Emily. Tell her not to leave her underwear laying around. I see a change in Ed, Abby. He hasn't cut his hair in 2.5 years, and he no longer appears to be working out. This is not who we are as a family. My husband and I are fit for our ages, and by all standards, clean and orderly. Should I say something to Ed? I feel like Emily is changing who he is. Signed, Not the Same, in the Northeast. Abby writes, please stop blaming Emily for the changes you've observed in your son. He's making those changes himself. Although his girlfriend appears to be ignorant about basic hygiene, I'm not sure you're the parent who should discuss this with Ed. He might be less defensive if the talk comes from his father, man to man. I don't know, Abby. In this instance, is the man-to-man thing really wildly different than it would be woman-to-man? Aren't we pretty much going to be saying the same things? I'm just curious, how will dads talk differ from moms? Mom says, will you please tell your girlfriend about her underwear and lingerie being on the bathroom floor? What will dad say that's really all that different? Son, I couldn't help but notice Emily's underwear and lingerie the other day. It was kind of cool. I'm sure you see it often, son, but it's kind of new to me. She has fine taste in undergarments, son. I want to start there. You lucky SOB. But I have a sneaking suspicion, son, that she'd rather you see them than me. So maybe mention to her that there's a way that can happen, and that would be, of course, not leaving them on the floor. Now, you can also tell her that if she continues to leave them on the floor, well, I'm going to assume she's doing that for me. And that, of course, is going to mean you're being moved out of the picture, son, and the old man is moving in. You comfortable with that, kiddo? I don't think so. That's why you want to talk to your gal. You see how this is different than the way you and your mother would talk about this? I'm sure you do, son. Golly, your hair is long. I might need to buy you a pair of panties. I'm joking, son. You're all man. Abby had more to say to our worried mother than what I passed along. She also said in her reply, I am unclear if your son still lives in the home with you, but if he and his girlfriend have a place of their own, consider gifting them a clothes hamper. They should get the message. Is this really what passes for Dear Abby advice now? The original Dear Abby has passed on. Her daughter's running the column now. I think Mom's rolling in her grave. Buy a clothes hamper? Ed's going to be calling you if you do that. Mom, a clothes hamper arrived at our house today. Said it was from you. Yes, that was my idea. Your father was against it, but I told him Abby said I should do it. You wrote Dear Abby about this? Mom, what the hell is this about? It's about your girlfriend's panties, Ed. What? Yes. I was thinking maybe she can make a little game in your house called Get the Panties into the Clothes Hamper. 3 points if it goes right in, 2 if you have to try a second time, and 1 if you change your target to the bathroom floor and hit it perfectly. I notice she's real good at hitting the bathroom floor perfectly, but that's only 1 point. Tell her that. Tell her getting 3 points would be getting it into the clothes hamper. And 3 points would do wonders for her self-esteem, and I'm worried about her self-esteem, what with her being 100 pounds overweight. Now, your dad was against all of this, but I'm not spending much time with him these days, since we separated. Yes, we separated. Turns out he's really into your girlfriend, Ed, and you, by the way, should know that. In fact, he says he wants to have another man-to-man talk with you about you surrendering your hold on her and letting him in full time. Now, I've been trying to win him back by visiting his motel room when he's gone and leaving my underwear on the floor of his bathroom. Ed, it is not working. I'm not getting any affection from him. In fact, I'm getting restraining orders. Anyway, Ed, consider the hamper gift an early Christmas present. And please tell Emily about the fun little game we spoke of. 3 points. It's perhaps hard for some listeners out there who are younger to believe this, but there was a time when Abby had more fans in this country than Oprah Winfrey. And I mean more than Oprah Winfrey has ever had. Abby was huge. She was queen. Back when newspapers were a thing the majority of people read, physical copies of newspapers, back then advice columns were a regular feature. Everybody loved the advice columns. But there's a sad little story about Abby that I want to pass along that's always bothered me. Abby was born with a twin sister, identical twins. And the sister was actually the first advice columnist. Ann Landers. That wasn't her real name, and Abigail Van Buren isn't her real name, but we'll go with those because that was the name they chose for their columns. Ann Landers started in Chicago in the 50s with her column. And I think this would have bugged me too, especially if you're trying to carve out your own niche in this world. I mean, you're already twins, identical twins, probably had to wear the same clothes all your lives, and people constantly confused who you were, thought one was the other and the other the one. You were treated like a unit, and you're trying to branch out, and you're trying to make your own mark in the world, and you start this advice column in a big Chicago newspaper, and your sister, your twin sister, after a little while says, "Well, I'm going to do that too." Ann Landers was very upset that Abigail Van Buren was copying her. She went to another big city, San Francisco, and started a column there, Dear Abby. But of course, they both wanted to get syndicated, and next thing you know, they're all over the country. And Ann is just ticked off that Abby copied her like this. And Abby gets a little bigger than Ann. Not a lot bigger, but she got bigger. She was a bigger deal. And they were kind of estranged. They were on the outs. They weren't getting along. They weren't talking. They sort of had this agreement that they wouldn't compete with one another in the same town, that they wouldn't try and get the same newspaper. But then, and this is really terrible, in 1956, Abigail went to the Sioux City Journal in Sioux City, South Dakota. That was their hometown. That's where they had been born and raised. And she offered to sell her column at a reduced rate on the condition that they would not run her sister. Ann Landers found out about that, and the two didn't say a word to each other for 10 years. Life magazine reported on this estranged relationship in 1958. The sisters loved each other, but they could not get rid of the resentment. They had this rivalry over these columns, and it destroyed their relationship. They really, the rest of their lives, never were close again. Identical twins. Then when Ann Landers died in 2002, Dear Abby's daughter, who was then running the column, very publicly had this showy expression of grief over her aunt's death. And Margot, Ann Landers' daughter, got ticked off about that because she didn't believe this daughter of Dear Abby had any love or interest in Ann Landers. And the whole world then learned that there was now this feud between the cousins, the daughters of Dear Abby and Ann Landers, that they didn't get along. And so this moves on another generation. How horrible to learn that these columns resulted in this kind of animosity for decades, and apparently something that continues today. But I'm not going to let that get in the way of the fact that I still like to occasionally feature the Dear Abby column on the show. You're under pressure. You are under pressure. You have a business that relies heavily on pressure washers, and either the one you have isn't doing its job, or it would do its job, but it stopped working. In either case, the pressure builds. Your business is suffering. You see those service trucks racing your way? They have pressure written on them, right on the side. American pressure. They're coming to relieve your pressure by either repairing what you have there to better than like new condition, or by showing you a better way to move forward with better equipment they can install. This is what they've been doing for decades. There's no one better at it. American pressure. They stock every part imaginable. They've seen every problem there is. They have researched every pressure washer ever built. They stand at the top of the mountain in this one very niche field, pressure washers. They have mastered the pressure washing world. Take advantage of people who are this good. Don't waste an opportunity to relieve the pressure. Go to AmericanPressure.com. You know, studies have shown that e-bikes keep people healthier. Why? Because e-bikes are getting more and more people out the door and biking. Because there's no longer any worry or concern. People feel comfortable on e-bikes, comfortable in all sorts of ways. They don't worry about confronting hills. They don't worry about distances. They make the ride as easy as they want it to be, or as difficult as they want it to be. They never feel overwhelmed. An e-bike offers that pedal assistance that changes everything. E-bikes used to be the future. Today, they're what's selling. And EcoFun Motorsports in Burnsville and Forest Lake know all about e-bikes. They're the premier e-bike retail store in the state of Minnesota. EcoFun Motorsports is having an e-bike sale right now. This is the time to get it. The best part is they let you try the e-bike first before you buy it. Learn more at EcoFunMotorsports.com. Well, it's time to go to the phones. Time to check in with the listeners. See what's going on in listener land.
Hello?
Hello, Sean.
Hey, Tommy Mischke. How are you?
I'm well. What am I catching you doing?
I am just getting ready to sit down with my family. We're going to watch a movie. I've got a daughter who's a pharmacy student, and tomorrow she leaves for a 2-month rotation in London, so we're just spending some quality time before she heads out.
Tomorrow she heads across the pond to England to study the pharmaceutical sciences.
Yeah, she's been at it this is her 6th year.
I wonder if she's going to learn all about poisons, different poisons. I've been spending a lot of time reading about poisons of late, mainly because a lot of spouses have been poisoning one another. Got me looking into the whole thing of the Romans and how they would poison one another, sometimes to get rid of rivals, but it was very commonly done by the Romans. But yeah, she may be studying the antidotes to these poisons because there's a lot of science there too. They're really learning how to counter a lot of these poisons. So don't you worry about your wife. Your daughter's going to take care of this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can understand how that would be important.
I was terrified there that you were going to say, I can understand how a spouse would want to get rid of another spouse. The family gathering is a lovely thing, and I'm going to get out of your way and let you enjoy your time together, but wanted to check in and say hello.
Oh, that's great, Tommy. I appreciate your call. Hey, I love the show, man. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You be well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Hello.
Kyle!
MISCHKE.
How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Top notch! What am I catching you doing?
Leaving my sister's house, spent the day over there. My mom had a little procedure, so I took the day off of work and spent the day with her and then did projects around my sister's house today.
A little procedure.
Yeah, some AFib heart beating, so I was with her while she got that taken care of today.
You know, all my life I've heard the term AFib. Who the heck is that?
That was my sister. Like I said, I was literally just leaving her house.
Yeah, I don't know what AFib means.
It's when your heart does not beat in regular intervals.
I kind of like the idea of a heart following the beat of its own drum. You know, it's out of step perhaps, but in a way that celebrates individuality.
You know, I will pass that along. I'm sure my mom would appreciate that because she is a very unique individual in her own right.
Yeah, tell her that her heart is just different and not to beat up on herself, pardon the pun on the beat there, but not to beat up on herself and also to accept that maybe her heart just wants to roll a little differently. I talked to a guy one time whose heart had stopped, and I said, that's not that odd. That's a heart that really wants to take a break. It's beat and beat for years. Give it a time out. Some people get so into this idea of a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, vital, but yeah, everyone needs a break sometimes, I suppose.
Well, this guy called the break a heart attack. I don't know what AFib means, but I certainly learned what defib meant with this guy because people rushed in with what they said was a defibrillator or something. And I'm saying, would you relax and let the heart have a night off? But nope, clear, clear, you know, and they did bring him back to life. And he had apparently been going down some tunnel and following some light. I don't know, he sounded drunk. But I will say this, that heart that got beaten again after that, it was a different heart. There's something about taking that break, even if it's just for 7 minutes, as it was in this case.
Came back stronger?
Yeah, the same way, you know, when you see these bands take a little time off and then they come back with a new tour and they're just reinvigorated. Dylan, when he came back after the motorcycle accident, all those down years and all of a sudden he's back, Rolling Thunder Review. Whoa, who's this guy? You know, he had some downtime. That's what the heart needs.
It's like you coming back to Hubbard.
Very similar. I was dead. I was dead to the world. I was gone. I was buried in the ground. People had written my obituary. I tell you, during that downtime, I did go down the tunnel. I did follow the light, and I did meet some of my relatives. But these guys I met, all who had passed away before me, told me, you get back on your horse and you get out there. You get back in the saddle, you turn on that microphone, you give it another shot. I said, you're damn right I'm going to. They said, what was the problem? I said, my heart had stopped. It needs a little break, little downtime, little chance to just be in the stillness. You know what I like to tell doctors who are dealing with a heart that has stopped? Have you thought about resting in the stillness? Rest in the stillness. Feel how quiet it is in this operating room. Just feel how quiet it is. There's no heartbeat. There's nothing. Turn that machine off. That flatlining thing makes a noise. Turn that off. Now just listen. Defibrillate him later, but right now just listen and just feel that. That's what the great yogis talk about, that expansive stillness often happens in meditation. That's what I'm feeling right now. Okay, go ahead. Put the paddles on him. Go ahead. And then they'll bring him back, and that guy's usually pissed. But sometimes that's even good because that anger gets the cortisol going, gets the heart pumping, boom, he's back. Sometimes the way you know you're alive is you're angry, you're ticked off, you want to kill someone, poison them.
You did just as much as the doctor did, maybe a little bit more. You added perspective to an everyday procedure.
Wish the doctors would have seen it that way, but I agree with you. Well, listen, I'm going to let you go. I enjoy visiting with you. I'm glad you put your name on the old callers list.
Oh, I'm happy to hear from you.
I'll talk to you again sometime.
All right, we'll talk later, MISCHKE. Have a good night.
So long.
Hello, this is Stan.
Stan!
Oh, it's spectacular to talk to you. I'm so glad you called.
Well, so glad you're glad I called. What am I catching you doing?
Just getting back from work and getting ready to go play some tennis.
Oh, you're a tennis player, not a pickleball guy, huh?
I play tennis mostly, and I'm not very good at it.
I'm a ping pong guy myself.
Oh yeah, I played a lot of that growing up. My parents had a table in the basement. When did you start playing ping pong?
I grew up with a mother who was the St. Paul City champ.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'd play my mother every night. At 57 years of age, she was the St. Paul women's champion in table tennis. And so we'd finish dinner and go down. She had the old penholder grip, very similar to what the Chinese use. She was quite good, but I'd take her on. She never let me win. When you beat her, you had to beat her fair and square, and it took me a few years. I'd win every now and then by the time I hit high school.
That's good parenting. Then when you beat her, you knew that it meant something.
She and the old man would play after dinner, long after all the kids moved out. They'd have dinner and then go down and play, and she'd kick his ass routinely. That didn't go over well with him. He didn't throw his paddle, but it hurt. It hurts to lose repeatedly.
I know all about that. My dad, whenever I play various games against him, he's always going to win. And even now at 31 years old, I still lose to him quite a bit at many things. A racquetball is another one. He beats me in racquetball probably 95% of the time.
Yeah, the key, I think, with any relationship is to find the game that suits you best. My dad eventually did find a game that worked for the two of them. I can't remember what it was called, something like Escaped Convict and the Warden's Wife.
Is ping pong your game, or do you have any others that you tend to be real adept at?
I'm really good at Battleship. You know Battleship?
Oh yeah, like guessing the coordinates and trying to sink the other person's ships, like that one.
Yeah, the one from many, many years ago. That and Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Oh yeah, I know Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
And then there's an old fella in my neighborhood. He's in an assisted living facility, one-legged guy, but I love kicking his ass in Twister. He's constantly hitting the ground or smashing into the coffee table or slamming into the little refrigerator he has. He's a wreck at the end of the night.
You bring up Twister. I used to work for a company that was started by the son of a guy who invented Twister. It was invented in St. Paul.
Well, why don't I know that?
Yeah, you should look into it. I mean, it's a fellow St. Paulite.
Hold on just a minute. Let me look this up. So I'm just going to put in Twister and see what pops up. St. Paul? Let's see. Who invented Twister? The game of Twister was invented by Charles Chuck Foley in 1966. The game was created for Milton Bradley. They initially called it Pretzel. The game became a sensation after Johnny Carson and Eva Gabor played it on The Tonight Show. Foley was born in Lafayette, Indiana. He served in the Michigan Air National Guard and worked on the assembly line at the Ford Motor Company before taking a job at Lakeside Toys in Minneapolis. He moved his family to Minnesota in 1962. He invented dozens of other toys and games and had 97 patented inventions. Foley died July 1, 2013 at the Golden Living Center in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. He had one leg and a guy visited routinely playing him in the game of Twister, which would cause him injuries daily. So what do you do for a living?
I am an accountant.
An accountant? The number one fear you have, and I'm speaking strictly in terms of money. Think of you and your philosophy with money. The number one fear you have when it comes to money is fear of things being out of control. Yes or no?
Oh, yes, I would say so.
Yeah, I have done some research on the different personality types and how they interact with money. There was the expressive, the driver, the analytic, and the amiable. And you, sir, would be the analytic. And the reason I say that is analytics fear things going out of control, being out of control, and analytics gravitate to jobs as accountants.
Yeah, I feel that myself, definitely. But, as I've grown in my career, I know that you also have to be able to deal with things being out of order and have drive to take the disorder and turn into order.
There is a personality type that is the opposite. And by that I mean they fear order. They don't want order. In fact, their greatest fear is forces trying to control them, things being too orderly as they're expected to fall in line and do things this way. They want things out of order because that indicates that they are not following rules. They don't want to follow rules. They are the expressives. And their fear is someone like you coming along and telling them they're doing it all wrong. They have to do it that way to be who they are.
In this world, it takes all kinds to build organizations and have wonderful things come about.
Now, who do you think built America? Which personality type was dominant? There's a certain kind of personality that would have considered picking up stakes in Europe, picking up stakes in Asia, picking up stakes and coming to the United States. They had a good thing going. They knew their community. They knew their world. They had friends. They had jobs. It's a pain in the ass in the 19th century to start over in some wild world like the United States. What do you fear if you're doing that? What is the fear driving you? Well, I just said driving. The personality type that came over and built this country, at least the dominant one, the drivers. The drivers fear what? They fear looking incompetent. They want to show how good they are, how skilled they are, how amazing they are. They want to prove to the world that they got something other people don't have. So they're not going to do that in their little European town where 5 generations live and everybody's expected to live a certain way and everybody's doing just okay. They want to show that they're different. And they come to the United States expecting to make a splash and send letters home saying, guess what I've done? So the drivers came over. And the drivers were dominant in the 19th century, and you can see them everywhere. Now, there's one group we haven't talked about. Who are these mysterious amiables? The amiables. What do they fear? How do they operate with money? Well, the amiables fear money itself and the way money taints things, taints relationships, taints the way you're perceived if you care too much about it. Money has a kind of poison quality to it. Money affects relationships adversely, especially when one party has it and the other doesn't. They don't like what money does to people because amiable's number one thing is relationships, human relationships. They fear the end of human relationships. They fear the end of a sense of community. They are about connecting to human beings. So they don't make a lot of money. They never make a lot of money. They become teachers. They become social workers. They don't go into jobs that do real well because they fear that doing real well will somehow make it look like that was the goal, the money. And they don't want that to be the goal. And these are your 4 personality types right there. Did a whole show on this one time. That's why I know about this. I did a podcast on this many years ago, and I sat with a guy at the U of M, University of Minnesota, who's devoted his life to this study. I could have been there all day. And he said, one personality type marries someone of a different personality type. They will be at each other's throats over money the rest of their lives. The rest of their lives. If you marry the same type, you will not fight about money. Oh, you'll fight about other things, but you will not fight about money because you both have that same fear and that same thing as your center of gravity. But he did say this, and this was important. If you learn what the spouse's money personality is, and then you learn what the fear is behind that, then you will understand them, and you will fight about money far less because you will see instantly what is pushing the buttons, moving the levers, guiding this person's thinking. It'll all make sense to you, whereas without knowing, you'll just think, what is wrong with them? So it is important to learn about these 4 types and which one you are, particularly in a marriage. Now, who plays the stock market wildly? Who goes out there and says, I'm going to throw some money here and throw some money there. I'm going to try this. I'm going to take this risk. That's an expressive. That's the one who doesn't like things under control. They don't want to do things the way you're supposed to do it. They use money kind of to have experiences, to have fun, to play. They want to play out there. The expressive is doing it to have some fun. They're the guys at the casinos. They may win a bunch, they may lose a bunch. It's not about that. It's let's play. Let's play, boys and girls.
Right.
I'm an expressive. They're all fascinating. We need them all, probably. We probably need them all. They all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, amen to that.
Yeah. So how much money are you making these days?
It's low six figures.
Nice. What do you like to blow your money on?
I do save a lot of money. Biking, cigars, are kind of a funny combination right there. I buy a lot of fireworks for the 4th of July. I like doing that. And skiing, alpine skiing, down mountains.
Mm-hmm. So where are you living?
I live in Bloomington.
I remember skiing at Mount Bloomington as a child. You could get down it in about 0.2 seconds behind the sewage facility there. In fact, I think it was just where they dumped the snow. It wasn't an actual hill. But me and my buddies would go there and ski down it and then climb back up. And down we would go. And it was free because it was just in a parking lot. Anyway, I'll tell you something. I'm going to let you get to your tennis game. I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm glad you answered the phone.
Same. I'm glad I picked it up, too. This has been a blast.
You take care of yourself.
You as well. Bye,
Right.
MISCHKE.
Bye-bye. When I tell you Josh Arnold offers a 48-minute investment consultation free of charge, I want you to know the 48 minutes was arrived at just to create a memorable moment in an ad. 48 minutes. I mean, that's kind of a goofy number. But Josh hoped you'd remember it. Arizona was the 48th state to be admitted to the Union. There are 48 contiguous United States. 48 is the number of mountain peaks in New Hampshire. 48 is the total number of minutes in an NBA game. And 48 is the atomic number for cadmium. Take Josh Arnold up on his offer of 48 minutes free just to talk about your financial future. Josh is awfully smart, and he's waiting at 952-925-5608. Tell him where you heard about him.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy MISCHKE is a paid endorser.
Hello.
Hello, Jim. It's MISCHKE.
Hey, MISCHKE. How are you, bud?
Oh, I'm swell. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Where are you?
I'm in Pine City, Minnesota.
Good old Pine City. What do you do up there?
Well, I'm retired now, MISCHKE. I was a guardian ad litem. I worked for the state of Minnesota as a guardian ad litem for the last 25 years of my career.
Let me just say that word, because I don't even know what you're saying, but I'm hearing guardian ad litem, a Latin word meaning a guy who handles the lawn at the state capitol.
It's Latin for law, but I work with children in child protection.
Really? The title again is what?
Guardian ad litem, Litem.
Wouldn't it be great if AI ends up making it so we can all live forever, and then you could be guardian ad litem infinitum?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
So what do you do with your time?
I have a grandson. That takes up quite a bit of my time. And then I like to fish and golf and read a lot. And I have a old English Bulldog Cooper that takes me for lots of walks.
If what you just described is what you end up doing between now and your death, are you content with that?
Absolutely.
That's just spectacular.
Yeah, it's been great.
You're not asking a whole lot from life.
No, I feel like I paid my dues and now I'm being rewarded.
How about in terms of books? What's the best book you've read of late?
Well, interestingly enough, a lot of them have been ones that you have had on your podcast, and I've enjoyed a lot of the authors you've had on there. It kind of intrigues my mind when I see some of the interesting characters that you've had on in their books.
And you take an English bulldog for a walk. You know what Churchill said about English bulldogs?
No.
He said this to a Nazi when they were trying to get England to just back off and be neutral and let Hitler have a free reign in Europe. Hitler really liked the British, and he didn't see any reason to go to war against them, and he thought it would be swell if they just stayed out of it. He called Churchill and had him meet with one of his underlings, and Churchill said as he left the meeting, "Do you know why English bulldogs have a nose that points upwards?" And the Nazi fella didn't. He said, "No, I don't know." And Churchill said, "So he can still breathe without ever letting go."
Oh.
Now, I don't know if the Nazi caught the meaning of that. There wouldn't be any surrender in this particular group of folks.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're known for being the tough bulldog, old Winston.
Say, I ran into a bulldog recently, and I was a little bit disturbed by this. Are you familiar with French bulldogs?
Yep.
Well, maybe you can help me out. You sound like you know what I'm going to say.
No, I don't think I do.
You're laughing. You must have an inkling.
Well, I know you, Tommy. You can look at things in a unique way. I'm just kind of anxious to hear what this is.
Well, French bulldogs are apparently some concoction that wasn't natural to the world. Some guys goofing around with breeding made this thing, and they maybe shouldn't have made it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that goes wrong is they don't live very long. 6 years would be a typical run. That's a very short life.
Mm-hmm.
They have health issues. But if you were to look up French bulldogs online, and I had to after running into this dog, because the owner said what I was witnessing was not uncommon with this breed. And I said, "You can't be serious." He said, "I am." And I looked it up, and there are whole communities of people who get together to talk about this phenomenon with this bulldog. And it's just known, and some people it really bothers, and others think it's funny, but it's just something people have accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I sat at a guy's house visiting with him, having a cup of coffee, while on the kitchen floor the entire time, his French bulldog masturbated. Now, you are going to say, this can't be that common. I'm going to see if I have this right. My fear is I've named the wrong breed, but let me just see. I'm going to just put this into a search engine to see, because when I did before, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. There are Reddit communities of people who talk about this. Right here, for instance, there's a whole Reddit group. "My Frenchie won't stop masturbating, and I can't do anything about it. Anyone have any ideas?" Here's another site. "My French bulldog just sits up on the couch masturbating all day." Here's another site, Facebook group. French bulldogs who rub themselves, it says here. Here's a whole blog, French bulldog masturbating. Here's another one, YouTube. "Is this Frenchie of mine actually touching himself? What is this?" That's the sign you've been messing around in the breeding laboratory a little long.
I guess so.
Now, you have an English bulldog. Imagine if Churchill was French. If he had to go to the Nazis and say, "Let me tell you something. You know why French bulldogs masturbate? Huh? Do you? I'll tell you why. They love life, and we love life, and we're not going to let you take it from us."
Wow. Well, I guess I didn't see that
coming. So I'm glad I got a hold of you. I'm glad you answered. I make a lot of calls to a lot of people off the listener list, and a lot of times no one answers. And I get back to them again later. I just make a note they didn't answer, and I plan to call back at some later date. I'll just keep running through the list. But I sure am delighted when I do get an answer. They tend to always go this way. I'm always happy someone answered. It always is enjoyable. So I'll let you get back to retirement.
Tom, can I tell you just one thing quick?
Absolutely.
I want to tell you, I have been listening to you, as a lot of your listeners always tell you, forever. My two sons, who are now 33 and 30, are avid listeners of your podcast over the years, because I got them on it on many of our road trips, vacations and stuff. We would listen to you. They just love your humor, and not just your humor, you're just such an intuitive and just amazing man to look at stuff and tell it in a way that makes it interesting. I think it's amazing how the authors you interview, almost to a man or a woman, say to you at the end of the interviews, thank you so much for your questions. And obviously you really read the book, because I'm sure they just are used to being on stations and podcasts that they haven't hardly even read the books. And you always give them such great questions that lead it to stories. And you're just a great storyteller. Thanks so much.
You're very kind. Thank you for saying all that. I do want to say one thing about reading the book. I think it's odd that I get a bunch of credit for having just read the book. I just assume you have to do that before you interview them or you'll sound like a moron. So I've never quite understood that. But I will say that Larry King prided himself on not reading the book. And I learned this one time when he was being interviewed, and I sat there in shock. He said, nope, I never read the book. I make a point of never reading the book. I will not read the book before talking to them. And the guy interviewing Larry said, why? And Larry said, and Larry thought this was brilliant. Larry said, because my listeners have not read the book. Ha ha! That's like a doctor saying, no, I don't go to medical school because my patients haven't gone to medical school. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But that was Larry's take. So thanks again. Great talking to you. Hope I talk to you again sometime.
Okay, Tommy. Thanks for calling.
You bet. Bye-bye. And that's going to do it for this here show. But I'll be back with another one in a few days. Doing 2 a week now. 2 shows a week. They come out Wednesday at 6 p.m., Friday at 6 p.m. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Like a heartbeat. Keep your heart beating, folks. I'll keep mine beating. We'll go as long as we can. We'll stay in touch with each other until our hearts stop. Then we'll move on to whatever's next. All right, sound fair? That's the setup. I didn't create the whole thing. We just got to live with it. We got to roll with it. It's the way it works. All right, till next time. So long.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.